All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Just Stories with BT. I am so excited this week because we have the president of Restonic Mattress, Miss Laurie, on today as our guest. And I'm going to, first off, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Very happy to be here with you.
This episode is going to be a lot of fun because you have such a great history in our industry. And I'm sure a lot of stories that I cannot wait to hear. And also, at the end, we really want to break down one of the things that we're talking about in this season 2, which is really highlighting some powerhouse female executives in our mattress and furniture space, and also kind of talking through a little bit of the why with what are the reasonings behind the fact that we don't have a big presence as far as
Right.
female executives go, and then maybe what is the ideas or what are some solutions or how do we attract more women into this industry that's such a great industry. And at the end of the day, is an industry that the buying decision is oftentimes 90% of the times is made by the female, and yet you have all these old white guys rolling around trying to run this company.
It's so true. Yeah. So we got to try and make some adjustments there without a doubt.
Yes. So as always, I'm going to do my best to introduce you to our audience, because a lot of people are going to know you, but a lot won't. And so I'm going to do that in my style. And then afterwards, you can tell me what I got right and what I definitely messed up on, because I always usually mess up.
Okay. Let's give it a
Sounds good?
shot. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here we go. So this is Laurie, and she was born and raised in Rochester, New York, and she stayed in New York her whole life. So she is a legit New Yorker. She has one sister who's older, so she is the baby. And as she grew up, I asked Laurie for some pivotal moments, and one of the things she mentioned is that she got glasses in kindergarten, had an eye patch, which with no backstory, so I'm coming back to that. But it was an interesting time to grow up. So Vietnam was going on. She had an uncle come back, thankfully, but also lost 3 of her grandparents at a young age, which definitely molded her in a certain way. When she was growing up, she was really involved in her school. She was a cheerleader, involved in all kinds of clubs. Her first job was at a department store, a little foreshadowing.
Right.
And as she studied, she loved English, she loved business, hated science, and that led her to actually wanting to go to New York State University, where she got her BS in marketing. While there, she met her sweetheart, who ended up marrying her, which was great. And they have 2 kids who are now grown. And as she was in school, she started working at the same department store. But when she got out, she was able to move into a buying position for mattresses, right? And
Right.
eventually moved to case goods and then upholstery, and then left that company and went to work for Bauhaus Upholstery for a few years. Eventually, after that, landing at Serta. And then from Serta, she came to Restonic, where she's been for 21 years, worked her way up, and is now the president of the company.
Wow.
What did I
That was
miss?
a mouthful. You did great. It makes me feel old, but you did great. Thank you.
So,
So I have to tell you, the
yeah.
eye patch, right? So I was born with a lazy eye, and they caught it really young, so that after wearing glasses and a patch for, I don't know, let's say 5 years, my vision was basically 20/20, and I haven't had to wear anything but readers since then. But I think it was the start of my love for accessories, because my mother would draw on my eye patch every day. Sometimes it was a flower, or my birthday, it was a birthday cake. And so my teachers were always anxious to see, oh, what's her patch going to be today? So I think that was a little bit in my development for accessories.
And so you wore the patch like underneath the glasses?
Oh yeah, it was really, I was a looker, but it
That-
worked. So
yeah,
here
that's
I am.
wild. And so just after a certain amount of years, it self-corrected and
Yeah, what it was is yeah, this is interesting. They put the patch over my strong eye so that my weak eye would become stronger.
wow.
And it did. So again, it was probably 5 years that I had to wear that.
Right. And how was that dealing with, I mean, I can't imagine that some kids weren't always the nicest. Was it?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't remember kids teasing me too much about it. And I think maybe, that whole having a drawing on it made me sort of proud of it. And I wasn't
Yeah,
as embarrassed as maybe I would have been. So
that's really cool. That's cool your mom did that.
yeah, it is. It was fun.
Nice. So, and obviously, like I said, so you have two kids now and they're all grown.
They are. Yep, my son lives in Nashville and loves it. And my daughter followed a lot of what I did. She went to the same college I did, got a degree in marketing, and is in New York City working for an advertising agency. She's a project manager and will be moving shortly to New Jersey because it's so sad what's happened in New York City. It's
Yeah.
her company had offices in the New York Times building, and they completely closed those offices. They're totally remote, and it's just not the same city right now. It's going to take a
Yeah.
while to get back.
Yeah, for sure. We were out, like I was telling you, we were in Georgetown, but half our team was also in New York because we were looking at different leases there. And and then I think you mentioned she's going to go to, is she going to be in Hoboken or?
Hoboken, yeah.
Yeah, because we have a store there, and I had never been in my life until I joined Avocado, and I got to go to Hoboken. And actually, I love it. I love the strip on Washington. It's such a cool little area, and everything happens in 1 square mile. It's just
Right.
packed with fun stuff to do.
Well, a lot of our friends have moved there already, so we're going down in a couple of weeks to help her find an apartment, and we'll get her shifted there. It's supposed to be a really great place for young kids to live.
Yeah, no,
Young
absolutely.
adults, I should say.
So
Still
tell
can't.
us, for those listening who don't know you, why don't you give us just a quick, I don't know, 60-second version of, kind of where you are right now with Restonic, and just the quick, how did it happen? Kind of what was your progression to get where you got?
Okay, sure. So Restonic, as I mentioned, or you mentioned earlier, I've been with them for just over 20 years. And I started in a sales and marketing role with them, and I'll tell you a little bit about that later. But Restonic is a licensing organization. So at the time I started, the owner had one location, and we sort of worked together with the other licensees to come up with marketing ideas and things like that. So as soon as I joined the company, he was delighted to have somebody to share some of these things with. And so I jumped right into that and started working with some of the other licensees. And shortly thereafter, a couple of years, we bought another factory that was a Restonic factory in North Carolina. And we stayed with that for the 18 years, 16 years, something like that. And then he was able to, his name is Tom Comer. He passed away a few years ago, but he sold to Bob Sherman,
Mhm.
who a lot of people know from the industry, obviously, and his wife Barbara bought 3 of the Restonic licenses. So those factories. I stayed on with them through that for the past about 3.5 years. And just in January, made the transition. Ron Passalia had been the president of Restonic for golly, about 12 years and has decided to retire. So I transitioned into that role. And I think just because I've been with the brand for so long, already know all of the players,
Yeah.
know a lot of the history of the brand. It's been a lot of fun. And I've been enjoying working with the different factories and seeing, I have come from just a strong sales background. So
Mhm.
I'm working with them to see how I can help them work with customers and prospects and help grow the Restonic brand. So it's been a fun ride 3 months in.
Yeah. No, it's really exciting. I remember seeing that come across the wire, and I was like, yeah, right. That it was exciting. Because
It
yeah,
is.
we've had different interactions over the years, like trying to, where I've been at multiple companies, trying to get Restonic in there or whatnot.
Yep.
Uh, so
Yep.
so tell me, I want to transition a little bit. Like I said, love stories, love hearing the backstory, love letting people kind of get to know you a little bit. And I always like to start out with, asking you about a story or two or a memory, something that you think back at as is funny or entertaining or something that you love to tell at any point in your career. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, so I've been thinking about this when you told me, how we were going to go through the podcast, trying to think of what would be one of my fun stories. And a real highlight is back in, golly, it's probably about 2012. A bunch of this, what we called it the product marketing group at Restonic at the time. So it was different licenses and the salespeople and marketing sales managers. We went on a journey to New York City. So we had people from Oregon, Texas, Indiana, all across the country. We came together, and it was this fast-paced interaction with focus groups, and they would get maybe 2 or 3 minutes to answer a question. And it was really designed for us to get ideas that we could bring back to our own businesses. So we all show up in New York City. We go to the first hotel. Well, I already gave it away, the first hotel. We go in, we check in, and there's this, I don't know, a review, I guess, that someone has come across that the previous week, a rat had eaten through a candy bar that they had left on their nightstand at night. When they woke up, they saw it. So within moments, we were like, that's it, we're out of here. And we all pack up our suitcases, off we go, find another hotel. All good. So here's the part of the story that I think is memorable. We all, again, jump in this cab to get to our meeting place. And unbeknownst to me, my cell phone, which none of us can live without, had fallen out of my purse. Didn't realize it. We get into the meeting. I'm looking for my phone. I can't find it. We didn't get a receipt from the cab, so we have no idea who it was. Yeah. And I start panicking. I'm calling my own number and just trying, hoping he'll answer. Nothing. So we're in New York for, I guess it was 2 days. That evening, little side note, was Halloween, and one of our cohorts talked the New York City police into allowing us to walk in the Halloween parade in Greenwich Village. So that was a little highlight. Nice. But I still am without my phone. So we go through these meetings, dinners, whatever. We're on our way to the airport to leave. I borrowed my cohort's phone just to say, let me just get my messages. This is killing me. Dial the number, and somebody answered. I'm like, oh my gosh, you have my phone. And it was the cab driver. He said that he had 2 days off, so he didn't know that my phone was there, but he heard it. And he said, where are you? I'm like, well, where am I? I don't know where I am. I'm in a cab going to the airport. He goes, no, where are you? So I look out at the street corner, and I don't remember, it was like Lexington and let's say 27th Street. He's like, okay, I'll be there. Really? So nice. I jumped out of the cab. Everybody leaves. They're on their way to the airport. They're like waving to me from the window, and I'm standing on the corner just thinking, is this the most ridiculous thing I've ever done? I don't know if this guy's going to show up. My team just left, and I'm standing with my suitcase on the street corner. Well, in New York City, about 5 minutes later, this cab comes screaming up. He's beeping his horn, waving my phone out the window.
No way.
Pulls up. I jump in. Not only does he have my phone, he drives me to the airport, and I got there on time. And so it was unbelievable and humorous and restored my faith in humanity.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh my God, that is so funny. Well, it could have been way worse, It's
And awesome. And so now everybody, whenever we're together, Laurie, do you have your phone? Laurie, you have your phone, right, Laurie? Like, yeah, I got mine.
It's so weird, that feeling of, when you lose your phone. It's like your whole world is like, wait a minute, what's happening? Yeah. I remember years ago, we were in Vegas for a convention, and I went and used the restroom at night. We had been all day, and then there's a big dinner thing, and then everybody was going out to we were taking everyone to a show, and I went to the bathroom, and I set my phone up on top of like the paper, like the toilet seat kind of thing. I set it up on top of there, and then whatever, I forgot it. Go back out, hanging out with everybody. We were having a drink. We were waiting. It's probably like 45 minutes or so goes by, and then we were all going to walk to the show, and I feel my pockets, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't have my phone. Like this. Oh no, sorry. And I'm just going through my head, like the bathroom. So we're on one side of this big casino, and I'm full sprint, as hard as I can across the whole entire casino. I'm full. Everyone's looking because I'm in a full sprint. I run into the bathroom, and I get to the very end, and I hit the stall. Someone's in there. And so and it's like, I'm busy, or yeah, someone's in here. And I'm waiting. And finally I was like, excuse me, is there a phone sitting up on the thing? It had been like 45 minutes. And he goes, yeah, sitting here. And so it was in there, but then he's like, just still going to the bathroom. And it was probably only like 30 seconds. But I swear, I felt like I waited like 5 minutes for him to get out. And it was really this whole awkward exchange, and then he just kind of walked by me, and I went in and grabbed it.
Right.
This relief of like, I cannot believe this thing is here,
Right. And again, we're so tethered to them that to be without it is it's Panicville.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, love stories, love hearing the backstory, love letting people kind of get to know you a little bit.
Which this goes back, it was when we were in High Point. It wasn't even Vegas yet, but it was just us. We were going to go. Peggy Christmas is another woman. She was with Leggett. No guys allowed because I mean, every other night we go out, it's always male dominated. So the four of us, we were going to go and no guys allowed. So we did that for probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 markets. The first guy is Don Wright and from Writer Thomasville. He's like, please, 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 can't I come? We're like, no, girls only. Please, I'll buy drinks. He said, oh, okay, you can come. So he was the first guy that we allowed at Girls Night Out. It has blossomed. I kid you not, there are probably 150 people that show up at Girls Night Out. It's Monday night of market. And of course, it's reflective now of, being 80% men, 20% women, but if that. But it is a blast, and it's retailers, it's manufacturers, it's suppliers, it's the whole industry, and we have a hoot. So I will include you in our distribution of when and where it is going to be.
I actually have a girls' night out story for you.
Tell.
So last year market, the winter market, like the last thing we did before the pandemic kind of shut down. So I was there with Brian Baxter and V, and a few other people, and we went to dinner right there at the where the bar, like right across from the bar, there's a, I think it was sushi, a restaurant or something. So we ate there, and then we walked to across to go to this girls' night out, and there was this lady there. I don't know her. She's from the furniture industry somewhere, and V and Brian know her, and she was pretty next level. She'd had quite a few drinks, and was just talking and being like real loud or whatever. And Brian's Baxter, my boss, has met her a bunch of times, like totally they know each other or whatever. And I'll never forget, because we walk up and she's kind of in the middle of the story and we're all talking and Brian says something, and then she's like, who are you, to Brian? And he's like, it's Brian Baxter. Yeah, we met like last year at this thing and this other thing, you went this tour or whatever. And we're all around, and she just looks right at him and she goes, oh, well, you should probably worry about being a little bit more memorable. And like turns around and walks away. And I start dying. I'm like a week into the job, 2 weeks into the job. And and he just like, everyone looks at him like, and he starts dying. It was so ruthless. It was just hilarious,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was really funny. I'll just never forget it. She's like, yeah, you should probably worry about being more memorable.
Oh.
So good.
Well, she was overserved.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but it was super fun actually. I knew it, and yeah, we'll definitely do it this market for sure. I'll be there.
Yeah, good. We'll have fun.
So I love that story. And now tell me, let me switch gears, right? So obviously you've been through a lot, as in business, obviously, life, whatever. We all go through lots of things. But when I think about the progression, especially being at a company for that long, 20 years, right? It's a long time. You had to have gone through obviously a lot of ups and downs, like multiple economic drops and sky rises, all kinds of stuff. So what is one or some time you could tell us, or stories you could tell us around times when you really struggled with something or had a really difficult time and kind of how you got through it?
Yeah. So I'll tell you 2 different stories. The first is, and it touches in on old school, and how you talk about there aren't a lot of females in this industry, but it goes back to when I was with the department store, and I was a buyer at the time, and our department store has since been eaten up by Macy's, but before that it was May Company and then Macy's, obviously. So that's one of the divisions of what it was. But anyway, I was still fairly young, 2-3 years out of college, probably 2. And the department store had a tuition reimbursement program so that you could get further education. And it was just part of the policy, right? It was just part of their human resources benefit package. So I knew about it. I went and took the GMATs to be able to go get my MBA. And I, had gotten very anxious about it. But anyways, took the test, got good grades on it, went to work, and I applied to tell them I was going to be taking this course. Really didn't think about it needing to be approved
Yeah.
because it's part of their policy.
Yeah.
And I got called up to meet with somebody, the VP of Human Resources, which I was somewhat curious about why, but went up and met with him. And he sat me down and said, we got your application that you're going to get your master's. I said, yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And he said, yes. So we reviewed this, and we've sort of thought, do we see Laurie Torkaz being the president of Sibley's? That was the name of the department store someday. And quite honestly, we came back and said, yeah, nope, don't see that happening. And so we're not going to participate in your college reimbursement. And I was like, I honestly, what I hold to this day, Brett, is I hope that people speak up now. I assume things like that don't happen anymore. I hope they don't. But if they do, I think people feel more empowered to push back and say, wait a minute, that's not that's not how this works.
Yeah.
I look back and I wish I'd handled things differently because I didn't think that there was a recourse that I had to say, wait a minute, you don't have that in the write-up that you have to be on a trajectory to be president to be able to get tuition reimbursement. So
And who are you
I'll
going
tell
to
you,
complain to? Like, that's HR telling you that.
yeah,
You don't
you're
need to
right.
go to HR and be like, hey, this thing happened. That is
Yeah.
the control.
So I will tell you though, I think, I'm disappointed that I didn't handle it differently or how I would have, I don't know. But I also know that it stays with me, right? I'm sharing it with you today. So I think it was something that I used to fuel my drive and my need to want to always achieve. So, maybe if it hadn't happened, I would not be sitting here today as president. I don't know, but it sticks with me. But I'll tell you also, when you say about 20 years with Restonic and the ups and the downs, good heavens, in 2008, I think it was, when the housing bubble burst,
Mhm.
we serviced from and those factories still do, but from New York all the way down to Florida. And I'm telling you, before the bubble of the housing bubble burst, we thought we were geniuses. Any place that we sold mattresses to that was close to water, they were, double digit increases and, wanting to do more with us. And we just thought, golly, we are so smart. Look at how great we're doing. And then the housing bubble burst.
Yeah.
And we were very fortunate to stay in business because it crushed us, and we lost a lot of good customers, and a lot of good customers had to go out of business. And it was a very challenging time. And I'm delighted that we were able to hold on and come to see the light of day. But it's something that I have kept with me to say, make sure that the progress that you're making is stable
Mhm.
and never take anything for granted. Just because somebody's business is up doesn't mean that you're ever guaranteed that business tomorrow. Make sure that you're always delivering on not just product but merchandising, and making sure that you're marketing, and it's a very um, constantly evolving relationship that, again, never to take anything for granted. So that's
Yeah.
a lesson that was learned.
Oh, for sure. I love those stories. I think your first story is such it's a great one because I believe that, for a lot of people in life, as you get older, you look back at things that in the moment seemed so crushing, or just like, so hurtful or so, damaging, or this is, I can't recover from this or whatever. And then you look 5 years, 10 years, 20 years later, and you see how that moment shaped you or completely put you on a different path that you wouldn't have been on, or you might not have had that fire. I had my first job in college and out of college, I worked with a clothing company, like a surf skate lifestyle brand. And it was my life. It was everyone, all of my friends, everybody. I worked there for 4 years. I was the national sales director. I thought, I'm doing this forever. We're taking this company all over the world. This is going to be, I'm traveling. It was just, it was this great job. But I never had any direction from the guy who owned it. There's two,
Mm.
the guy who started it was the visionary, and then the guy that owned these factories. They never told me how to do the job, what to do, how to do it. I just assumed I was doing good. We were growing everything, but I never had any direction. And I made a big mistake, which was, I started dating the boss's daughter, and that was all close. And then actually my sister was dating the other guy, the other boss, the younger boss. And it was this weird kind of whole thing. And this one Christmas, after I got out of school, like the year I got out of school, both those relationships ended within like a week of each other, right around the holidays. And I remember I was off like a week with Christmas, and I came back, and around New Year's or whatever, and that first day in the office was
Little
just
awkward.
so awkward. Every pins and needles. It was uncomfortable, and I could tell. Obviously, I'm the cause of them feeling weird. The owners, like because they both feel weird about both ways. It all feels weird. And the next day, I walk in, and the owner calls me into his office. It was on the other side of the big kind of warehouse, and I remember walking over there, and he told me, you know what, you're just not, you're not doing the things that this position needs to do. You're not doing, what you need to do. We just don't think it's going to work out. If you want to, work in the back of the warehouse or something like that's okay, but it's not going to work out for this position. And I remember, just like you said, I didn't know how to handle it.
Right.
Internally, my thought was, well, you never told me what I was supposed to be doing. So how would I even know if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing? You never told me. Right. But then also going like, wait, but I helped grow this company from nothing with one account with 10 t-shirts to 400 accounts all over the place in Japan and all this stuff. So I'm going like, this doesn't add up. Right. That was just the excuse. But
Exactly.
the reality is that gave me such a underlying desire to let that never happen again, that I've always, I've just outworked and outpaced traditionally who I've ever been around, because I never wanted that to happen.
Right.
And it was funny because even like up until a few years ago, I remember I was dealing with something when I was at Living Spaces, and my boss at the time, this guy Luke Parker, a good friend of mine, said something about how well I was doing or whatever, and I just didn't even hear it. And he stopped me and like made me look at him in the eye and say like, no, man, you're doing great. Like you don't need to prove yourself anymore. You've been here for a few years, but I was like, I just, but I look back and I realized it was because, that moment, it really kind of took me on this different path. And so although it felt like a life ending at the time, my whole world crumbled. It took
Right.
me to a whole nother path I would have never been on.
Yeah, I think it shapes you, as you mentioned. I think that's exactly what it does. So, do you wish it happened differently? Yeah, I still wish I had handled it differently. But again, embrace the change that it made in me.
And let me ask you this. I mean, with that too, I mean, do you think it had anything to do with, was it just your current position at that time? Do you think it had to do with the fact that you were a woman? Do you think it had to do with just, why did you think that was the answer?
I, I without a doubt think it was because I was a woman, and just I guess a part of who I am is I've never been. I always think let's find the right person for the job. So I've never been someone that says it's got to be you should hire me because I'm a female.
Yeah.
You should hire me because I'm going to get the job done. Um, but in that case, the positions that I've already held as a buyer, I've been continuously promoted, and
Yeah.
had exceeded expectations in terms of sales and turnover, things like that. So really, that's the only thing that could have been the reasoning behind it. And they'd never had a female president, and it had been over 100-year company, never had a female president. It just, I'm sure, was, a thing of the time that they really didn't see it, which is, even that's okay. It wasn't like I was going in there to say I want to be considered president. I just want to get the benefit that you've made available to everybody.
It's insane.
So,
I
yeah.
wish, with everything in my heart, I wish somehow, some way, whatever that guy is, somehow got when you became president of Restonic, that came across his LinkedIn feed or something. I mean, that would have been awesome. Just
That
you
would
could have
be
sent him some email or some burner account. Hey, didn't you work with this woman one day? The one you told would never be a president.
I should search him out and find.
Okay, if
Just
you search him out, send it to me. I'll make sure he gets the info somehow.
okay, that's a deal.
Be your
Thank you.
friend.
Oh, it's funny.
So tell us, speaking of more happy things and success stories, obviously, becoming president is a huge success, but what story could you tell us or stories you could tell us about, you know, when did it all kind of come together for you and when did it, like, the realization that you'd become the president of this big company, like, actually kind of like feel real to you?
Yeah. That that's a great question. And really, making the move from Serta to Restonic was an interesting situation because the Serta that I was with, it was there was NBC, which was the one large license of Serta, and then I think Sleep. I can't remember the other one, but anyway, there were two large ones. But we were owned by Silent Night in England, and so they owned two of us, one in um, Boston and one in Pittsburgh, and I worked out of the Boston one, and they got sold to NBC. And so there was a lot of change going on, but it was, becoming part of an even bigger group. So I was very excited about that. And Tom Comer, who owned the Restonic license, came after me and recruited me. And it was a really difficult decision to make because I was going from this very large industry leader to a small one factory license. But I made the change because when I was with CERT, I was in sales, and going to Restonic, Tom, he had a great way of recruiting. He said, let us tailor the suit to fit you. That was one thing that I remember taking away. And the other thing he said to me is, the most important name on your business card is your name. And so that, again, stuck with me. And so by going to Restonic, I certainly was going to be a bigger fish in a very small pond versus a
Yeah.
reverse. And so I was able to get into merchandising and product development and marketing, as well as keep my hand in sales. And that's really what it took all of my interests and what I felt were talents and let me engage in those and let me become more excited. And I'll tell you, I wake up every day and cannot wait for the day to start. So I feel that if I had stayed in with just sales without having a voice in what I'm selling or how I'm selling it, I probably would have not lasted that long. I think I would have not enjoyed my career path as much. So making that change, while it was, like I said, very scary going from a big company to this really small little one factory in Buffalo, New York. And Tom would not even let me come to the factory when we were going through this dance of being recruited, because he was afraid I'd turn around and never. It was this old 4-story building in the center of like Gang Central in Buffalo, New York. And he said, yeah, I don't want you to see the building yet. So it was quite a different company that I joined.
Yeah.
And then again, over the years, it has evolved and grown, and I've been fortunate enough to evolve and grow along with it. So it's really been a fun ride.
No, absolutely. You guys have had some massive, huge splashes over the last 4 or 5 years too, with the Property Brothers and different. I can remember that market, walking in and seeing I mean, you guys had the
Right,
huge
that big
banner
sign.
sign. I was like, whoa, Restonic, they're going after it.
Yeah, that was a fun market.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, when
Yeah, you guys had lines out the door.
Oh, the brothers, they are amazing. And of course, and they showed up that market. And you're right. I mean, people just lined the showroom and out the door and what a fun time. Yeah, they're wonderful to work with, and they've helped elevate the awareness of the Restonic brand. So that's been a wonderful
Yep.
achievement. Yeah,
No, that's so cool. And I love that story because I think it's good for people, especially, even younger people in their careers that are trying to figure out, what opportunities do I take? What do I pass? What do I go with? And I tell people the exact same thing, which is, when I was with Mattress Firm, after they acquired us at Sleep Train, I was kind of overseeing, the training and development from everything west of the Mississippi. It was thousands of stores. There was all these directors, but it was niche, right? It was just development. And
right.
at Sleep Train, it was sales and training and HR. And I got to do a lot more and product and a lot more things. And when I got to Matt Firm, it streamlined even more.
Right.
And I was so busy, there were so many people, but I wasn't, getting to do a lot of other things. And when the opportunity came around for living spaces, I remember being terrified because I was like, well, I've never been the buyer before. I don't know about product development. I know about sales and about training. That part I can do. But there's all these
Right.
other things that job was trying to, how to do all of it. And I remember I was inspired by this Richard Branson from, Virgin.
Right.
He had this really cool quote that said, like, if someone ever offers you an amazing opportunity and you don't know how to do it yet, like, just take the opportunity and figure it out, you
Right.
know? And I was like, yeah, I'm all in. And, that changed my life because learning about both sides of the business is so invaluable.
It
So
is.
all of a sudden I was designing private label product on this side. So as a merchant, then I'm buying it and selling on retail side. Then I'm, traveling to Asia to make the adjustable bases. I'm designing pillows. And then I'm building relationships with the vendors. It was just so cool. And there was so much. I'm doing marketing and doing think tank groups like you talk about. And, all these things in a matter of 3 years, I learned more than I learned in a decade.
And doesn't it just energize you? It's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
oh, it was
you figure
phenomenal,
that.
and then that, really catapulted me to join Avocado because it was like, okay, now I'm confident. I could really take something fresh and help really catapult it, because I felt confident. I know about a lot of these things, but it wouldn't have happened where I was. If I'd
Right.
stayed, there, yeah, maybe I kept going up that corporate ladder there, but at some, there's walls there too, and you kind of balance out. So, anyways, it worked out same as you, like it created a different path, which was great. And the thing is, I always tell, especially like college kids, about when they're looking for jobs, I'm like, I think take as many risks as you can before you have, families and kids and mortgages and whatever. Work for the small startups and hope they grow big. Because if you just only stick with that corporate path at these big giant companies, it's going to take you 30 years to get anywhere.
Right.
Is this the reality? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's
Nope.
just reality. Like you're not going to enterprise rent a car and going to be a VP in 5 years there. It's just that's not how it works. They're
No.
too big. It's going to take you 20 years, 25. So, so anyway, I think and we're seeing that. That's what's exciting about companies like where I work and different places. Like we're seeing our industry is shifting over and turning, and it's just become this whole new thing. And it's still a great industry, but I think there's just going to be a lot more opportunity for a lot of people.
I You're
And I
so
think
right. Yeah.
and I think that's really where I want to go here with my last little bit of this is just asking you, like, so here you are, very successful, became president of a large company, and as I'm looking around and wanting to highlight and have more, female executives on, the sad part is you go to LinkedIn, search our big brands, and then, LinkedIn will put it in order of kind of title. That's how they do it when you search through them. There's not a lot.
No, no, there's not. And I have to believe, people like me that have been with the same company for 20 years, it doesn't happen often, but it's happening even less. And so I'm hopeful that as this new generation, they they do make changes more frequently. I hope that we can figure out what tools we need to do to attract them to our industry. And as I mentioned to you before, I really believe, find the right person for the job. But if being a female in this role can help me help the industry see let's use this to attract more females or younger people, whatever the diversity is, let's just try and get it to be a little bit more diverse, because you've been to the same conferences that I have year after year after year, and it is a sea of white men. And that's not who our customer is. We
Yeah.
need to make sure that our industry is reflective of who we're selling to, so that we can, make sure that we align what they're looking for with what we're offering. And you're right. None of us ever grow up saying, golly, I can't wait to get into that mattress business, unless your family's been in it.
Yeah.
So, and it's fun. I mean,
Yeah.
I would challenge anyone to find an industry that is more inclusive. We competitors get along when we're not trying to get each other's slot. Our many of my dearest friends are people that I've met in the industry.
Yeah.
So how do we make it fun and inviting, and what avenues do we take to get people right out of college, or train them out of high school if that's what we need to do, but really to make it inclusive? And there are some groups out there, like I think With It is a great organization that is female focused, but also more just diversity. And they have different internship programs. So it's more furniture populated, but maybe we get the mattress division to do some sort of internships. There's got to be ways that we can work together to bring more diversity.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're right on with that. I think, I had Katie Law. She owns the Sweet Dreams little
Yeah,
franchises in North Carolina, I think 4 or 5 stores, and
great group.
had her on the podcast, and she was saying how, at the end of the day, great talent, attracts more great talent, and so it's like as people like her get into her role, all of a sudden she's been hiring people and bringing people on, and so it's working, but she's just one of a small group. And what I've seen is the good positive thing is that when you look at the DTC brands, so if you go and look at Purple and Casper and Tuft and Needle and Avocado and Brent, like our companies or whatever, and you look at that same LinkedIn profile, they're much more diverse, but they're
Yes.
also not people from the industry. That's the thing. So they're pulling people from other fields. And a lot of times these companies were marketing companies anyways. They're not mattress oriented people from the industry. So they're starting it more like a tech company or whatever. And it's more diverse. It's more, whether you're looking at that male, female, ethnicity, whatever, which is great. And eventually that will bleed out. And that's what
Right.
I've been trying to tell my team, because my entire management team is all female except for one guy. And
You mentioned
none of them
that.
are from the industry, but they're
Right.
looking at it. And I'm like, there's a huge opportunity for you guys in this space. You can be executives one day. You can do all these different things. And I think you could take it by storm, because at the end of the day, this is what our industry needs, to be honest. Like we need, I was talking to someone the other day and they were talking about how a big company in our industry pays consultants to come in to pick fabrics because they want to get the female perspective. And in my head, the first thing I'm thinking is, well, why don't you just find a really great, like person
Right.
in-house? Like, why are you going outsource? You know what I mean? But hey, at least they were doing it, but it was like, listen, like that's our issue. Go
Yes.
out. But at the same time, you have to be able to have people that can attract those people where they want to come work in this space, because that's what you see from the outside, right? If you do go on LinkedIn, you looked in, you're just going like, wow, why would I want to work in that space? It just looks like it's all this type of person.
Right. To what I want to say, stuffy or traditional, rather
Yeah.
than giving people the ability to blossom and
Yeah.
to share their vision. And we need that. We need that. We have to grow with the consumer, and hopefully we all are thinking the same thing and we can put it into action. That's
Yes.
right. More than
Well,
just
these are
about,
honestly, these are the types of conversations that we just need to start having. That's the
yes.
reality. And the more we get it out there and the more it becomes commonplace, hopefully it's something that, eventually starts to help, And so tell me, I want to leave us with one thought, which is, so what was the first thing you did when you got the official call that you were going to become president? What did you
I,
do? What was your
I got
first
new
thing?
business cards with that on the card. I was So that was job one. But you know what I did is I called all of the owners, and luckily I've known all of them before, but I just wanted them, I wanted them to know how excited I was about this role.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that just lifted my sails for a good month afterwards, because they all embraced it. They all said they, looked forward to what I was going to bring to the table. And I've just had, it's only been 3 months, Brett. So I can't, but I'm just still flying high. And um, working with each of the factories has been the most rewarding thing for me so far. And I've been able to bring to them some digital marketing ideas, and actually have a turnkey solution for them. So we had a call yesterday, and we were talking about YouTube pre-roll. And one of the licensees said, well, how does one do this? How do I buy pre-roll? And I said, you know what? You don't have to worry about it. We've got this company, and you just go to this site and tell them what you want. And so, it's that type of thing that is, they're willing to trust me, that they'll reach out and use these tools that we're bringing to them. So it's been fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
More than one word, sorry.
No, it's all good. Even better. Well, thank you so much. I know your time is valuable, and I think I said 45 minutes. I'm right on it.
Okay.
So I thank you so much for this. This was a blast.
I really have enjoyed it. I'm honored that you included me, and enjoyed talking with you. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Laurie. Have a great weekend.
You do the same.